All right, we're live, I think. This is Chad from the AI Content Dojo, and this is going to be our first AI content teardown. So we're going to take an article that was written by somebody in the community using one of the tools such as Shortly or Jarvis, and we're going to just review it, look through it, and see if we can figure out ways of making it a little bit better for them, or maybe have a little bit of fun and see if we can spot where the AI did the work instead, and things like that. I'm actually here with a couple of other people that are going to do this review with me. I'm going to go ahead and add John in here right now. Let's
Hello.
see. And let's see if we can get Tara in here too.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear
Hello.
you, John. All right.
Cool.
Okay, and so I guess we'll just get started. Alexandra was going to join us for this teardown. This is her article. It's about college advice for freshmen, and I guess before we get started, did did you guys want to introduce yourselves? And everybody probably knows who I am by now. Um, I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
Cool. Tara, would you like to go first?
Hello. Yes. Hi there. Yes, I'm Tara Tamika. I'm a digital marketing consultant and I am an absolute lover of AI tools. And as I will always say, if it hadn't been for Chad, I wouldn't have known as much as I do. So I'm very grateful to be in this. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this teardown goes because I am going to start writing more articles using AI. So I need to be schooled. Thank you.
I'm John Bass. I'm otherwise known as the Indiana Jones of meditation music. I make obviously meditation music, and I also write a lot of content and meditation scripts using AI augmented tools. And yeah, I'm here to help out and to sort of dig into this and see how we can sharpen it up and see where it could be a little clearer for the reader. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, like Tara said, I'm indebted to Chad for his constant, unwavering guidance in developing the best workflow and mindset around AI tools. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here also.
Very nice. And we have David here from Oregon. How's it going?
Welcome, David.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stall just a little bit, see if Alexandra can join us.
No worries. Do your thing.
I kind of okay. So she wants to be in the audience. That's okay. So
Cool.
um, let's see, Alexandra, if you're in there in the audience right now, sometimes we might have some questions so that we can better understand sort of ways to help you make this article better, or you know
Hmm.
things like that. So I guess we'll just get started. So, college advice for freshmen that will help you have the best freshman year experience. The first question I always would have would be, what is, like, who's the avatar? Who's your persona that you're targeting? Like, with some amount of depth, not just college freshmen, but a little bit more. Maybe what are like some of the struggles that they might have, or um, some other ways that you think that they live their life, and things that you can provide them in this article, so that you can use that persona to kind of help guide your writing. So if you're in the audience and can provide some of that for us, that would be great. One of the things I like to look for too is some specifics. So, college advice for freshmen that will help you have the best year experience. It's a Sounds like it's a pretty broad topic. There probably are a lot of different things that could be written about in here. I'm sure college life has a ton of different things to go through. I haven't when I went through college, it was a while ago, and it wasn't. I was on a military installation, so it's much different, I'm sure. So one of the first things I noticed here, and by the way, I haven't read this article yet, and I'm not sure how to say your name. I'm probably gonna mess it up, but welcome, Durjoy, and happy Fourth for sure. Um, so one of the things that I noticed, just kind of breezing through here a little bit, it does feel like the intro is a little bit repetitive, maybe, or just it takes a while to kind of get to something, meaty for the reader. Um, I think you had mentioned something like that too, John, at the intro.
Yeah, I there's a couple of points straight off the bat. The you've got two kind of subheads, and also the headline. I think you could look into the using the tools a bit better and get a better headline out of there because um, yeah, again, it's looking at your avatar and who you're marketing to, or who you're hoping to get for this, and it feels it feels a little bit robotic, no pun intended. So, injecting some more empathy into that would be good. And yeah, the first couple of lines kind of you've got like a description, and you've got another description underneath of what the article is, and I feel that could be sort of tidied up and streamlined a bit better.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Of course.
When I looked through the article, I wasn't aware of how long it would be, so I started reading it. And whenever I read listicles, I love going to each one, and I think a lot of people do it, and reading the subheading, right? So reading one, and then if it doesn't appeal to me or it doesn't resonate with me, or I already think I know it, I move on to the next one, and then I find my little nuggets, and then I take that, and then maybe later on I'll might read the rest. And I kept scrolling to find out how many there were. So I think it would be really good to have the title of the blog post to say 55
Hmm.
XYZ, because to me that's exciting. That's a bookmark. That's oh wow, I'm going to get a lot of value out of this, which is very different from when I start reading it and I'm like, oh no, I've got to go and make a cup of tea, or we've got our concentration span is very brief now. Um, and then the second thing I would add is I have noticed that when I'm using AI tools to write articles, whether you're using something like Shortly, which is long form, or you're using, like Jarvis, the form and copy AI, you put all the details in the form. I've noticed a lot of repetition as well. And one of the things that I want to tackle is how can I, and I'll say as an inexperienced writer, because a lot of us are inexperienced, we're using these tools and we're getting excited about using them, but how can I spot the repetition and tighten it up and, remove something? And I noticed that I really love 2-3 different intros, so it's very easy just to put them all in, and end up with the repetition. And I feel that might have been the case this time. So I don't have a solution other than maybe just reading it, editing it, and pinpointing that you're saying the same thing but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to add.
Yeah, that's very good. Because, like you said, this title, the headline of the article, and then the subhead kind of says the same thing as we start getting down into there, right? One thing too is a little bit more about specifics. Afraid you won't succeed in college. I mean, what does success look like? Maybe just some things to think about. We're not trying to fix your article, by the way, and we're definitely not going to try and do anything that would hopefully upset you. And if we do, please let us know so that we'll know how to format our feedback better. But I think I like articles that kind of just deliver like pretty quick. Listicles like this feel like to me that they're like a really really wide and don't really go much in depth. I think they're good if you're in the situation where your site is really big and you've already got more in-depth articles on maybe each of these sort of subtopics. Um, I like I just like to sort of get to having something that the reader can just take away right away from each section. And one of the things that AI will do to you is it'll augment to kind of make things a little bit extra, but it won't actually like get into the topic. So you got to be careful with that. Um, have you run into that much, John, when you're doing your articles too? Uh oh, I lost John. Hold on, got to add John back.
Oh, oh, you can hear me,
There you
yeah?
are. Okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no worries. I didn't realize that we had to have video for audio. Yeah, just what you're saying, Chad, is I'm reading through. There's a few points. I'm sure we'll get to them a bit later, where there's a lot of good ideas there, but there's nothing that's targeted for that reader. So you can, if you're not constantly bringing it back to the what's in it for the reader, it's very easy for the AI to just veer completely off course. So what I've taken to doing is when I'm writing subheads, I will or an H2, I will literally keep it to a tight 300 words, and then make sure I get my point across in those 300 words, and then move on to the next one. So it's very systematic and methodical. So yeah, this is something that you and I talked about, Chad, earlier. Is this covers a lot, but it doesn't cover it to a deep degree, and I wouldn't expect it to, being 55 points. But what would be good is if those 55 points were expanded at least two-thirds more, so the reader's actually got a clear impression of the idea that you're trying to get across in those H2s.
Hmm. Expanded to the well, but also make sure that they're not just kind of adding extra words just to have extra content.
Yeah,
Um,
no, for sure, for sure. That's what. Yeah,
mhm.
this comes back to what you're saying about it and just not writing fluff. So yeah, having that, bringing it back, bringing the actual point back to how it affects the reader, how it could help the reader.
Yeah, definitely. Like have that reader in mind when you're hitting
Hmm.
that write for me button, and not just make sure the content is factual and kind of sounds like you to a degree, but also that
Hmm.
it's actually targeting your reader too.
Yes,
And
totally.
yeah, so yeah, like you said, going through this, it is a really long listicle. Um, let's just stop at one. Attend fairs. So attend career fairs on campus and learn about the companies that are hiring on your campus right now. It's a lot of use of the word campus. Not only will this provide you with networking opportunities, but it'll also give you practice at interviewing. If you're able to do an informational or networking interview with someone on campus, it can be a lot easier to make a great first impression and land the job you want. Yeah, I think that something like that could use more depth, and like articles like I guess listicles like they go on and on to 51 something. I mean, it sounded like Tara likes listicles, so I'm curious. My preference for an article like this would be to kind of think of the sort of major subcategories of success for a college freshman, and have maybe this be with like 3 or 4 articles that were a lot more in depth on the content rather than just kind of going over it, because I feel like this sort of content is probably quite prevalent online where it doesn't go into a lot of depth to give the reader something
Hmm.
useful. Is Tara still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Um, Personally, I do prefer listicles to be shorter, and I think, as John and you have mentioned, for it to have a bit more depth. I think one of the things
Hmm.
we need to try to avoid with using the AI tools is creating fluff. And I know that there's a lot of talk about the longer your post is or your articles online, um, the better it is for search and so forth. But at the same time, we all know that Google has become quite clever, and it can weed out fluff. And I think the repetition of words, as you have mentioned, um, Chad, is going to be the key there. It's something simple as taking your article and putting it in a keyword checker, and it will tell you how many times a word has appeared. Will help you kind of figure out, well, why am I repeating that? That again. That would help. Um, but what I would do is, if I had an article this long, I would definitely break it up into three parts. And yeah, if each point, if each listicle had like a very clear call to action as to what the reader should do, then there would probably be more value for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I have seen listicles that will go on to 100, but those tend to be for me the ones that I like that are that long and that many are resources. So here are 100 top marketers to follow on Twitter. That's great because then I've got the information and I can just add them to a Twitter list, for example. But yes, for something like this, maybe pinpointing some very key areas that's being written about, and then you take further into depth. So this could be, nine, nine lists, or instead of the 55, and then have another post that comes after it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Like you said, I think that in my travel website, there would be lots of sites out there that do this, but you'd have listicles that go on and on for 100 and something, but they would be like best restaurants for or in Tokyo or something. They'd be
Mm-hmm.
like destinations to go to. They wouldn't be different pieces of advice for somebody to read through and trying to learn from. So I think for ones where you're trying to deliver information, it might be a little bit like a little bit better to actually take the extra time to go deeper on some things just so that you can stand out too, because I think that a lot of the common information that you're going to have in a long list like this is you're probably going to be competing with a whole bunch of other resources out there. So like set goals for yourself. I'm sure there's a ton of things you could do to go much deeper on that. And so I don't want to turn this whole teardown into just talking about go deeper, but that's kind of where the game is right now, where anywhere where you can kind of have that reader in mind and you just kind of take that extra step when you're creating your content. You say like kind of what the information is, and then how you deliver it and how you kind of add a little bit of extra to it is what will make it really, really stick out. So I think it was at the top of this article that we saw. Let me go back up. We saw the part where the AI seemed to repeat itself. Sorry if I'm scrolling really fast. So being a
No
freshman in
worries.
college, being a freshman in college is an exciting time, and like to get the most out of your. I think these two paragraphs right here were the ones that kind of felt like the AI maybe. I don't know how much of this is AI, but it felt like the AI was just kind of helping you create content to have extra content there. So this could probably be cleaned up. Did you have any specific points in the article to look at, John or Tara?
Yeah, I think. By the way, we're sharing my screen at the moment, so I had to follow. I had to
Oh,
follow your
oh,
what you were doing, but it's all good.
are we?
Yeah, yeah, because I realised that we were talking and it
Oh,
wasn't going to where you were talking about.
well, I'm new to this. Sorry, streaming.
Yeah, it's all good, bro. It's all good. I just thought I'd let you know. Yeah, I think the something stuck out to me. I haven't read the whole thing, but yeah, apart from expanding each point, but I saw this point 21 where it says develop a personal brand, and then for me that kind of stuck out because I mean I don't know exactly what the target audience is. I mean I think Alexandra said it's college students, but we need to if I'm going to give you some advice about that is to be more accurate about who you're. We already know that it's female college students, but if you the more information you have about that person, the more you know what's right for them. So I found this bit where it says develop a personal brand, and then it says the personal brand is a way to differentiate yourself from others in the same marketplace. This feels like it's very very generic, and then it says promote. It helps you to put a marketing plan together to promote yourself. But then if they're just starting, I think that's probably going to be on the last at the back of their mind. They need to learn the basics first. So this is almost something that you could split into either its own blog post, or I think we mentioned earlier about splitting it down into separate posts that go into slightly more detail. But yeah, I think all of this could go into slightly more depth. And I don't know if you've heard Chad talking about doing the dance, but giving the AI something to work on that is your idea. So, um, you could watch other videos he's done about that, but very briefly, it's telling the AI what to write about next. And all these ideas I think are really good, but they see there's you've got like I don't know how many words is that, but where it says ask your parents to help, it's just 3 lines. Like that could be expanded a little bit better and take into account the reader's emotions as well, because it could be like maybe you don't want to ask your parents for help, but it could be also you kind of have to think about what your long-term success in college looks like, and do you need help and support right now to help you be successful with that. That could be something that you're actually stepping into their world and actually seeing it from their point of view. And yeah, apart from that, I think the style and everything is really nice, and the way you've got it laid out. But yeah, it's a bit more depth, and I'm just looking through this at the moment. Network with all this stuff's really good, but again, it's just this networking thing could almost be a blog post by itself as well. So you're touching upon these points, and all these could actually be links to deeper blog posts. And I think someone's already mentioned about linking structure. All this could be, write like a double or even triple what you've got here, but keep it relevant. And then have a link to say, if you want to read more about this topic, so you develop a bit of a cluster. Yeah, that would be kind of my thoughts for the time being. Talking a lot.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. I think you could probably start at the top, and the headline itself, like after you kind of have a more defined persona other than just college students. Like if it was, an introverted college student, they're probably going
Hmm.
to be exceptionally nervous on their first few days or weeks even. The telling them to go to a party or something like that is going to probably trigger them a little bit. That's not going to be what they want to do. Um, and by the time that they get down to that part of your article where it does kind of have something in there for them, they're probably already gone. They're probably not going to stick around that long. So I think, let's say, we probably still have John's.
Yeah, you tell me where to go.
No,
Tell me
no
where to
worries.
go.
I'll just
I'm
switch
trying to
it.
follow you. Oh, excellent.
It's all good. It's all good. Um, is this a like it says 55 college tips down here? That's what Tara wanted at the top. Did you have anything else to add to that, Tara?
Yeah, I wanted to say that actually, sorry, I don't know the name of the person who wrote this. Is it Alexander? Alexander?
Alexandra?
Alexandra.
Alexandra. Okay, thank you. Sorry. So I think Alexandra may have the same problem I have, in which we want to get the content out there. We want to. I mean, I'm sure she probably wants to have more than one article, but sometimes you're kind of stuck in. Let me at least get one published because I know it can be helpful. So you put everything in there. And
Mm-hmm.
one way of getting around, linking to another article is making it a part 1, part 2, part 3. I think that would be pretty cool. You could still keep the 55 tips, but as a reader, I would know that I'm going to get part 1 now, and then when Alexandra's ready to do part 2, she will be able to add the link to it, because there's nothing worse than having all that information and you can't link to it until you publish the second one. And I do actually like quite a few articles that I see that have these different parts, because I might land on part 3 and I get kind of excited. Oh, there was a part 2 and a part 1, and I go back to that. So that could be a good way of keeping your readers' interest, giving them, I call it the meat and potatoes rather than just the fluff, and then give yourself time to get the other part, written and published, and then link to the original one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I like how it can like, entice you, right? When you get on, when you like you said, you land on part 3, and you really like part
Exactly.
3, and you're like, wait,
Exactly.
there's 1 and 2. Okay, let me go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you guys want to play a little game here. Let's see, 51. Get the right information. This one right here. There's a little bit more to it than the others, and let's see if we can guess what parts were written by AI. What do you think? I give you a little bit of time to read it. A little bit of dead air, and,
Sorry,
and
can you?
Alexandra can try to remember. Is it? Can we? You want me to zoom in? Can I go further? All
You
right.
broke up really bad. Couldn't
Here
hear
we
what you
go.
said.
Oh, I said we're gonna try to see if we can guess what was created by AI here in this section,
See what
and yep, what
did
parts were
you
written
say?
by
See what
AI.
parts are going to be written by AI.
Yeah, is the audio breaking up pretty bad for me?
Cool.
Hmm. Okay. So I'm going to let Alexandra prepare too, but I'm going to read this real quick and just see if we can think of what parts were AI written. And if you get to the point where you think you found what's AI written, just let me know. And of course,
Is that
anybody in the
open to
audience can
everyone?
participate.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you answered my question. I would say that the part "Let's face it, no one really likes to study" is doesn't time with what was there before. And so I'm wondering if that's the part that the AI wrote, because it seems a bit disjointed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also the part where it says "talk with someone." I think if we're writing to help people, to give them advice, we shouldn't really be saying talk to someone. Probably say talk to someone about A, B, or C. Like, I don't know much about this topic, but I would say talk to someone to see if your reasons for wanting this course fits your personality. I'm making this up a little bit here, but something that it is a bit generic. Talk to someone. Well, actually, I've come to this post to read, to get the information. The header says get the right information. So I've already spoken to someone. How is this helping me even further? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think. Maybe the AI is written because it's generic, and sometimes the AI will give you something generic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like how David's guess is that all of it is AI except for the first sentence, and we'll let Alexandra let us know. But I think exactly what you said. It's kind of sort of the theme through the whole article. It's the depth. We're in a subheading where it says get the information or the right information, and um, the whole all the content that's under that should be telling the reader how they might go about getting the right information. Um, Instead of telling them how they might go about getting the right information, it's kind of just reiterating that they should go get the right information. So I'm curious if Alexander can let us know. All of it. Okay. Very nice. Okay. So interesting that I picked one that was all AI written.
I like what Alexandra said. I just wanted to get it published, which I can really relate to, Alexandra.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I've brought this up a lot of times in different forums, not on YouTube too much, mostly in our clubhouse audios, or clubhouse rooms that we talk about this stuff more. It's creating the content fully from AI is it's exciting, it's cool, it's fun, right? Because you can get it. You're like, wow, the content is just happening, and the only the only problem is that you're going to get to the point where you're going to have a bunch of content, but it isn't actually going to be able to rank or do what you hope for your reader. And Google's going to understand that eventually when you have people who come to your site and then doesn't they don't seem to get what they want and they bounce back. So you got to spend a little bit of time of more like I would say, because you said that your target audience was college students, probably would be best if you took some time to really dig into who one college student is that you have in mind. So she's just entering college for the first time. She's a freshman, right? Go into her whole life. I mean, maybe even like it's all a story, but you go into that person's life and kind of where they came from, you know, what their likes and dislikes are, and all that kind of stuff. You have a whole thing in mind, and then you can, when you're writing your article, you're letting the AI write with you. But when you're editing and changing things to reach your tone, the content is actually it actually feels like it's specifically for somebody, not just for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think John, did you fall out of the stream?
I ducked out. Yeah, I dropped
Oh,
one back.
okay.
Thanks for
Did
having
you
me back.
did you see the part where she said that it was all AI?
Yeah, I'm reading that now. So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge both what Alexandra and Durjoy have just said, and they're very, those two thoughts are very much aligned. It's like I've just thought of a metaphor for it. It's like building a paper plane and seeing how far it flies. So if you give the AI something to work with, it will come up with something along those lines. But if you just set it to write, it will write and write and write, and it will just go anywhere it wants, and it will just come up with, as Durjoy just said, it's just coming up with thoughts that aren't really sequential and aren't really structured. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
case of kind of having a plan before you go in, or having at least a mental plan before you go in. There's nothing wrong with experimenting on the go and seeing where that leads and coming up with ideas and implementing them immediately. But how you can prevent it going off course is literally by telling it, keeping the context really, really simple and really tight to what you want to talk about. And yeah, this did feel. I mean, reading the part about point 21 where it's talking about the personal branding, that for me felt very kind of off. It kind of felt like, not not the sort of kind of warm emotional writing that I'd expect from someone that's writing about, and that's just my expectations, mine, but someone that's writing about people that are going into what's going to be quite a daunting experience for them. And then they're talking about kind of differentiating yourself from others in the marketplace, which is kind of very, corporate speak, that kind of thing. So, taking into account that these people they're young, they're open to new experiences, they're going into something that they've never experienced before, they're going to have a bunch of anxiety. So keeping that in mind and using words and language and ideas that actually reflect a calmer, more open, more empathic kind of attitude towards them. And yeah, I mean, it's good that, having said all that, it's really good that you're getting out there and you've just gone for it, which is great. And that I heard Tara say that, it's good that you're doing that. But work with it more deeply, because the deeper you go into working with the AI, the more you're going to get out of it, the richer your ideas are going to become. So I hope that clears up the 2 points that you guys just made, Alexander and Durjoy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's kind of my thoughts for the time being on that. Over to you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. So Durjoy was asking how might that be prevented. So one way, um, let's see. I think the tool that was used was Shortly AI. One way to do that, like this is a section. It's kind of it's within the context of being about college, freshmen entering college, but it's still its own subsection. So one thing Debbie's asking about breaking it into 3 points. We'll come back to that. Um, One thing you could do inside of the AI, like Shortly or Jarvis, is the article brief on the side is something that can change at any time during your article writing. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're deep down in an article, especially an article like this, you're probably 2,000 words in by now, and the AI can't see back that far, all the way to the top to make all the connections for you. You can get to the point where a subtopic can kind of be sort of it can kind of just sort of be too generic and it won't get into the points you want. So what you do is you can update the article brief. The article brief is always going to be sent back when you're using that compose button. So it's always in use. And one of the things you would do is kind of make sure you really know the topic at this point. Like, get the right information. You could probably add more to this headline here, and then also inside the article brief, make sure you have all the rich topics that are about getting the right information for college, so that the tool has more to work with at this very point. And then after you have Durjoy noticed it. Yes, it's missing 0.52. Good catch. So after the article brief has got a lot of really rich context for the tool to use, it should start catching on a little bit more to what you want. But if it doesn't quite give you what you need, because you're trying to always maintain that sort of narrative thread for that reader, you're always going back to the headline. You're always going back to make sure that you're delivering what you need, what that reader needs in this particular section. And then if it isn't giving it to you, what you can do is start leading it. Since this is your topic and you're the expert on the topic, you just start writing a couple of words into the sentence. And once you get to the point in the sentence where you feel like you know what the rest of the words are going to be, that's when you hit the compose button or the write for me button, and you let the AI take over. At that point, it will have enough context to kind of continue your thought for you. And sometimes it'll add a little bit of something extra that kind of surprises you, but it's either a good surprise or a not so good, just delete it and then try again type of surprise. But more often than not, at least it finishes your existing thought before it kind of gives you that extra surprise. So that's one of the best ways of kind of making sure that you can continue the sort of unity needed to make the whole article sound kind of like it's got some planning through it. And if anybody else have any questions, I think we've done enough teardown. I like everything else about this. I just think that a little bit more depth is necessary, because the reader actually needs some actionable stuff out of it. So at any point where you feel like you're just giving information, sort of here's some info, but it's not really info that somebody could take and do something with it, rethink it a little bit and make it actionable for them. Any and if John or Tara have any other closing remarks?
Yeah, I'd say just the conclusion. This where it says this post was all about college tips and freshmen should know. This piece here, even above that, we hope these 55 college tips. For me personally, I always have to have a very, very strong conclusion when I'm coming to the end of a post. That's just saying what it. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
Cool. Yeah, so that for me is just information. Again, what Chad's just said about just being informational rather than actionable and having an impact on what that person is going through at that point in time. So if I was going to give you some advice, I'd say, you could start this. And one of my techniques that I use is I would say, we know that starting as a freshman can be a daunting experience, but with these tips you can, and then hit write for me and then see what comes out of that. So again, just injecting some kind of direction that the AI then goes, oh, okay, so this is the conclusion now, and this is what I can actually write. The leave a comment below is fine. You've got your perfectly optimized content goes here. So proofreading as well is very, very important, because that's obviously something that the AI has just spat out and needs to be removed. So but overall, man, it's a good. I think you're going in a good direction, and you just have to work with the AI and learn how to actually guide it with your own ideas. That's me done.
I would add to that I love using Shortly for conclusion, because it's the only AI tool that I use that I can just put everything in there and then say write a conclusion to it. There's nothing wrong with picking out one of the lists. So you could say something like 49 might be one of the hardest. Is it the hardest for you? And have a very clear call to action when you're saying leave a comments as well. Ask a question, because that really prompts people to think, even if they don't leave a comment. But yes, everything that's written should have a very clear call to action, because if somebody's read through everything and it's 55 of them, they don't know what to do next. So I've got all this information now. What is the first thing I must do when I finish reading this article? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Alexandra, do you have any questions, or I guess anybody in the audience, any questions, and we can address them here.
One Wizville asked, I haven't got into AI tools, but I do a lot of article rewriting. Do you think Jarvis will help me even further? Yes, but obviously you've got to make sure that it warrants the expense of Jarvis. So don't just get it if your business can't afford the fee that you'd be paying for Jarvis. And then you've got to also consider what you're going to be producing with it, and whether that suits you. So it's a case of just, what is the content you're producing, and would Jarvis be an appropriate tool for it? You've just got to sort of try it out and see for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And are you, and you said you're a freelancer, are you providing this rewriting service for somebody? It's like you're rewriting their content for them, or I mean, these tools are great for rewriting and adding content, but it does need to be your content or your client's content that you're doing it for them. If you're going out on the internet and just taking articles from the web and rewriting them to be yours, that's not okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. And
you get into hot water for doing that.
Oh yeah. Especially if you accidentally steal somebody's original research, you do that and they catch you. That can be pretty bad. Especially if it's like a really big research project that costs them a lot of money to do it. That could be bad.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is with rewriting is that with these AI tools, you don't need to really rewrite anyway. You can just come up with something that's completely original. So it makes that very, very easy.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He said that many times they provide an article and request a rewrite. Okay. Yeah. There are reasons to rewrite articles. If you like this article here, for instance, it could be rewritten to use a specific persona, like the introverted person, the introverted college student, and that would change the wording for a lot of this content here. So you could definitely do that. Sandy, how do you check fast if the information is correct? How do you check fast? Well, I guess that depends. Fast is a relative term. If your article is short, then it's not too bad, right? You just Google everything in it. If it's really long, it's just going to take you a lot longer. The best way is to know the topic before you're writing it, so that you can know when it makes a mistake.
Yeah, totally. I just bolt onto that. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but the way to check it fast is to know what you're talking about in the first place. That's the surefire way, and because we did this the other day when we were doing the test run with the content, and I was writing about swimming pool filters, and it's pumping out all this information, and I'm looking at it thinking, I don't know whether any of this is actually true or not. It could be all fabricated. So the deeper your knowledge of your subject, the easier you're going to have with the entire writing process, not just fact checking. But that is the fastest, not the fastest, but it's the best way of actually knowing what you're coming out with is factually accurate. And yeah, it's due diligence. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. You've just got to make sure that you've got everything, you're protected and you're looking after your audience too.
Yep, absolutely.
I would also add to that, the way I see it is that these AI tools, they're helping people who don't
have any experience with copywriting to produce content, but if you look at the traditional role of a copywriter, or somebody, and especially somebody who's writing an article, in fact, it's not the actual end result that they've spent the most amount of time on, it is the research. So copywriters tend to be able to write about anything, but the undervalued part of a copywriter is first understanding the subject. And I think if we are going to use these AI copywriting tools to produce an article in 15 minutes, there's nothing wrong with doing some fact checking on the information it's produced. If we don't know the subject, that takes us an hour. It's a bit like when you work out in the gym, everybody believes you should just go and, you know, pump some weights. I did that for half an hour, but actually you're supposed to spend a lot of time warming up and cooling down, to make sure that what, you know, your workout is going to be effective. And so I would say that's the same with these tools. Get all the articles pumped out, but then spend some time fact checking it and, you know, rewriting that sentence to make sure it's factual.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the part
totally.
that nobody wants to tell you about, right?
Right.
The the awesome part, the shiny part is like, oh, they wrote the article in 15 minutes, but behind the scenes they didn't tell you that, you know, that they've been in the field for 30 years and they just know everything about it. So
And
so let's see. David has a question. Excuse me. Now that Shortly is being folded into Jarvis, is there still a reason, including pricing costs, to only use Shortly versus moving wholly to Jarvis? It's a choice thing. If you're in a situation where Shortly is doing everything you need, just stay with Shortly. There's no reason to jump to Jarvis. I would just say, I think the best advice from me would be just pay attention to Jarvis, and it's going to be improving and changing over time. Shortly is going to get minor improvements and things like that. It's going to basically be Shortly for the way it is now for pretty much forever, for however long it takes before Shortly eventually, if it ever is turned off. I mean, from everything I've heard, there's no plans to ever turn it off unless they're forced to by OpenAI. So that said, if Shortly is meeting all your business needs, and that's all you need. But if, you know, I guess if you're in the situation where you're making a lot of money from your content and you just kind of want to make one tool and you can find ROI from Jarvis, then if you had to pick one, I think I would pick Jarvis in the long run, only because I know that there's some things that are coming up that make it that it will be able to do things that Shortly can't do so well. Might not be something that you need, but it is going to be able to do some things. So, and you know, that tool is the one that's growing, and but we're all talking about content, and so Shortly can create good content still, so that can be good enough. Any thoughts, John, Tara?
Yeah. Yeah. So just bouncing off that question, if you're the other thing is also with Jarvis is, well, Shortly is also a really good content writer, but with the thing with Jarvis, if you need the quick access to templates, then obviously the Jarvis has got also an advantage there. You can just go. I know you can create the same thing with Shortly, but you know I'm lazy, so it's a lot easier for me just to click a few buttons and have what I want come out the other side. So that would be another kind of point to evaluate when you decide on which one to use.
Yeah, I would add to that you know, I've always been a fan of Shortly. I was disappointed when it was bought by Conversion AI. I used Conversion AI, and most people know I'm a copy AI fan. And my plan was always to have one template AI and one long form. And we all know that, well, I don't know if we all know, but OpenAI has restricted you know, developers and founders from creating long form. So Shortly is it. My plan is, I feel so comfortable when I'm going to write something to use, you know, a long form AI tool and Shortly. I would say have both. So until, I'm just sitting here thinking, if Shortly does die a death, whether it's a year or 2 or 3 years, then that happens. It's life. But I personally feel way more comfortable using two tools. So jumping into Jarvis, Copy AI, and Shortly. And one of my workflows is to use the form So any template in Jarvis, for example, write a blog intro and pop that into Shortly, because I love seeing what it does, and adding my bits like improve the paragraph above, including XYZ. I like that. So if anybody can, keep both, but if you had to choose one from a business point of view, I would say choose Jarvis. Just my personal opinion.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Sandy asked, does Jarvis do the same thing as Shortly? Boss Mode is just a copy of Shortly. Kind of. I mean, it's fair though, right? They did spend a lot of money to purchase Shortly, so it's their technology technically now.
Yeah.
So when you say Shortly, they didn't take it from Shortly. They fairly purchased it from the original developer. So if they, by putting it into Jarvis, it's a smart move, for them. So that's just the way it is. And Joel said that, the Google loves his Shortly content. I guess I would say that Joel is probably doing a little bit of extra to that content to make Google love it. So I'm sure he put a lot of effort into his content than just dropping it from the AI into the web to see what happens.
Yeah, and I like that Joel has said that, because I hear many people say, "Oh, this tool is working for me. This tool is working for me," but going back to the whole classic, give everybody a hammer. Not everybody can, build a shed or build a house, even though they've got the same hammer. Everybody has a different experience, different approach to using a tool. So I love hearing success stories. But I also like to advise people that just because somebody has bought Shortly, Jarvis, Copy.ai, whatever the tool is, and is making money, there's a lot behind it. There's the whole, based on what Joel has said, I'm figuring that he's done some SEO keyword research, that he's tidied up his paragraphs, that he's understood his avatar, and he's made sure that the content that he's got, I'm talking about you here, Joel, but do correct me if I'm wrong, but making sure the content does appeal to his target audience. And I'm assuming that when he did this before AI, it would have taken him a lot longer. But now it's quicker. You can confirm or unconfirm what I said, but that's how I understand it. He waits patiently.
Yeah. No, we're waiting.
Yeah, Joel's going to say, no, that's not what I did at all. I just copied and pasted it. And look, I'm making oh. But yeah.
Yeah. I like that analogy, though. Like, yeah, everybody can have the same hammer. And, there you go, Tara. You're correct.
Yay. Thank you.
There you go.
Validated me. I was nervous for a minute.
So now we know that Joel is good with a hammer. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had a lot of fun doing this. I mean, I was a little bit nervous. I didn't read the article ahead of time. I was trying to see if maybe going at it blind would be the best way, and I'm thinking maybe next time I'm just going to read the article ahead of time just to be better prepared. Sandy, is affiliate marketing doing blogging is going to die? No. Affiliate marketing is basically you choosing a product that you feel like you should tell other people about. And you can do that in a blog or a video or anything. And if it needs to be blogging for you, then yeah, that's not dying. Nope. All right. Does anybody have any further questions?
Sandy saying, yeah, I'm just going to pick up that last point. So is Sandy saying that it's going to die because content is so easy to write now? Is that what is But the thing is, content might be easy to write, but is it good content? Is it like the Joel level content? Because not all content is created equal. Quite literally, like there's a lot that, as Tara's just mentioned, there's a lot that goes into it before you start writing. If you're, the thing is that you might make a quick buck selling, not having the deep enough subject matter for the affiliate product that you're promoting, but that's only going to be temporary. Like we're in this for the long run, and we want to build. We're building, and we have built, and we will continue building. Good trust and respectability with our audience, and that comes from writing content that is well researched and hits the mark. So it might be right. It might be easy to write in volume, but again, that comes back to knowing what you're doing and having a clear intention to begin with.
Yes. Yes. So I think what's going to happen is because you have tools like Shortly and Jarvis helping people create content, but the quality line is still going to be where where the cutoff is. So if you don't spend the time to make sure you connect with your reader and give them exactly what they want, then your content just won't get found. And so there's going to be a lot of unfound content created using these tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, anywhere you see an article or a video or something where they're like, I can create 500 articles sleeping in a month or something. Yeah, probably gonna be just 500 articles that waste their time. So just keep that in mind. The chances are that's not going to go anywhere for them anyways. And just if you always deliver for your reader, then they're going to want to come back, and you're going to become that trusted person, and that's when the affiliate marketing starts working for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to 1 hour now, and I think we'll probably be closing this up soon. Thinking about making this kind of a regular thing, but kind of turning it more into just a sort of a show, or sort of where we just kind of hang out, talk about AI and the different things that we can do with it, and also, maybe do a tear down, but maybe do it a little bit quicker, while we also ask or answer questions during it, if you guys are down for that.
Definitely. Welcome, Glenn and Adrian.
Hi there.
I heard Tara for a second there. You want to say
No,
something?
I was saying yes, agree with you about doing these, and just saying hi to everyone that joined.
Nice. Cool. Well, I don't see any further questions. So, yep, there's definitely going to be a replay. It's probably already online. As soon as I hit the end broadcast, it'll probably be there. And I'll share it in the group and everything too. All right. Thanks, David. Yeah, tear down format. I kind of dig it too. Like I said, I'm going to be more prepared next time in the article itself. I was hoping that maybe if we just sort of, can we see if the article is indexed? Yeah. Indexed for what? What are we going to search for? What do you think?
Maybe freshman advice. Looking at the headline, trying to work it out. Freshman advice for the first year of experience. Oh yeah, college advice. Yeah,
that brings up a good point though, because what is it that you're expecting the reader to type in to find you? Is definitely one.
Mm-hmm.
Site article URL that would tell you if it's. Oh, you just want to know if it's in Google at all? Okay. Let's see, is this going to go straight to the search or not? Yeah. Okay. It's in Google. I wouldn't know where. Hey, look, it's telling everybody. I live in Tokyo, by the way. See? You can see it right there. So, yeah, it's in Google, but I'm just curious of what, I guess if we could start off with. Watch it be number one, and we're just we're just talking about this, oh, never mind. Yeah, okay. It doesn't appear. I don't know how new the article is either. So, it's not on front page. College advice for freshmen. That's a massive. I'm sure that there's. Yep, Joel. That's definitely step one at least. Google can see it. It's online. Now from here, it needs to grow. Okay. I think this is the end of episode 1. I guess maybe we'll try and shoot for around an hour maybe a little bit less. I'm not sure. Depends on how many questions we get in each episode. And of course, when it's posted into the group and stuff, you can add more questions to the chat, to the comments section, and I'll help answer them. So, all right. Thanks for coming out, everybody, and thanks Tara and John for joining me.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure too. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Love you lots.